Abdul Sattar Edhi, and the other great personage is Dr. Akhtar Hamid Khan, who has given us a model of development for the city of Karachi, but of course it is replicable everywhere. And both there, and Dr. Akhtar Hamid Khan, who passed away 13 years ago, his legacy still lives on in the Orangi pilot project, which has made a very big difference in the urban life of Karachi to date. And the other person, of course, is Abdul Sattar Edhi, who's alive and whose philosophy of life is something which is very, very difficult to emulate, but we would all do good if we do it. His teachings of living simply, of is living simply and helping others is something that we all should and can emulate very easily. The two books, Abdul Sattar Edhi was, the author is Amna Asfar, but it is based on a book which was written by Tehmina Durrani, sorry, I just had a mental block for a moment. So Tehmina Durrani, and she has done an autobiography, a biography of Abdul Sattar Edhi, and she has, and in so doing, she has been in close contact with him. She has spent a lot of time with him and seen how he works, how he operates, how he thinks. So since this graphic novel is based on the biography written by Tehmina, could you please tell us a little bit about how you felt being in the presence of this man who's a legend in his own time? Yes.
Assalamu alaikum to everybody here. Well, I think everyone here knows themselves that to be in the presence of a man like Mr. Edhi would be unforgettable and certainly have some impact on your life forever. Edhi Saab's, the time I spent with Edhi Saab was, I think, 3 years, in which period I traveled with him. I lived in Edhi homes. I went to Balochistan, to Afghanistan, spent a lot of time with Bilqis, and was quite astounded by the fact that much as it had become, Edhi Foundation had become such a huge institution and was spread every 25 kilometers of the country and was also an international institution. Edhi Saab Foundation, Edhi Saab and Bilqis's way of running this foundation was still simple. She would still go to the fish market, buy the fish for the entire homes, which were thousands of people, still buy the meat, still buy the grocery. She was still doing it as if it was a little home that they were running, just for the two of them. And you've seen it too, Clarissa, as you have seen, written the book, how they managed and, simplified everything. Nothing, one of the things that Edhi Saab said, which has remained in my mind and has affected my life and has made me change many of my own ways. He believes in simplifying complicated matter. So everything is simple, and one of the most important things he keeps saying is simplicity. If you simplify your life, if you simplify your thoughts, if you simplify your lifestyle, your expenses, your relationships, life becomes much more, balanced, easy. So we have very complicated lives, and for children of this age, like this book has been published by OUP, I think it's a very important thing that has happened, because it is from this age that when they start learning about a man like Edhi, who won't be among them, for so long, maybe by the time they grow up, he's already 90 years old, to be able to understand his thoughts, his ways, his message, is going to affect their upbringing, because they're going to learn these things from an early age, which we have not really experienced ourselves, not really learnt, and not really taught. Anything on the syllabus is not something that is so from a man in this country, who they can to, like Dr. Hamid as well. Absolutely. So I think OUP has taken on this venture, very, very commendable and very important to happen.
Tamina, it is very, we say that we all should emulate and simple, etc. So can you give us a tool and say, okay, this is how we can reduce our life to simplicity? What
it's a philosophy, really. Yes. I don't think any of us can become the.
No.
I think that is so, extraordinary, that he lives in the same office that he started the mission from. He hasn't changed anything from the time he was a teenager. What he's really trying to say, and if we are able to understand that, is his greater message. And the greater message of Edhi's life and work is not that he's a social worker. He's not a social worker. He's a reformer. He's an agent of change. And that reform, I will give you an incident which might explain something, that when he was around 15, 16 years old, he recognized that the people in this country did not understand Islam. They did not know the religion, which would teach them that without humanitarianism, without Kulabad, there is no Islam. You can't be a Muslim and not have that very important aspect as an part of your lifestyle, your being, your person, your character, your communications, your relationships. Humanitarianism and Hukukul-Ibad, service is part of the religion. And Edhi Sahib, people don't understand. And because he was a scholar, because he was not an alim, because he's not a mullah, his beard is in the spirit of the revolutionaries and not in the spirit. He's very irked if you say Abdul Sattar. He doesn't like it at all. So he decided, unless the people learned humanitarian, they cannot learn Islam. And unless they knew this aspect of Islam, he could not create what he was going to try to create, or he was going to spread. And he decided to one day end everything and interpret the Holy Quran with the way he lived life. He lived his entire life according to the message of the Quran. Nothing in his life. He didn't think, not a day has passed where he hasn't actually interpreted the Holy Quran by his life. That message he had to convey by living an entire lifetime. It couldn't happen in a day, announce anything. He couldn't preach it. He had to live it. He's a living example of the religion. Now, if we can understand that, we can begin to emulate parts of it.
The lesson of simplicity and the lesson of charity is something that is to all religions.
Yes.
So, and I have heard say that he thinks that all religions have this common thread. So it should be a pluralistic approach where you embrace all religions. is
Well, he
so
says,
that universal message of love all religions give is to be embraced, and I do not know if he has had an Islamic narrative to it.
no, he has
don't think
always
so.
maintained,
Yes.
but he is Muslim and he is living in a Muslim country, and his naturally everybody expects him to, himself
Yes.
as one. But Edhi Sahib himself does talk about religion. This is something that he decided to do because he was living in a Muslim community and was a Muslim. But his belief is that all religions are based on humanitarianism. All religions.
Of course.
They are all based on humanitarianism. He will not talk about religion, won't be drawn into a conversation about religion at all.
Yes. And what about his concept of charity?
He has created a social welfare industry, which the people are shareholders.
Yes.
And not believe in even the dole system in England. That it makes people dependent on something they have not earned.
Yes.
He doesn't think that beings need charity. If they have 2 legs and 2 eyes, they can earn their own living. So he made people shareholders in the foundation, so that it is not charity to them. So when they ask for an ambulance, it is their right, because they have put in something into foundation. His when he talks of charity, it is that you should be able to share, and you should be. It's very much like even in the Catholic, there's tithing. Tithing. Yeah. So so he that everybody should give from what they earn, but he doesn't believe in people living on charity.
Yes. Now, in the same, he has these orphanages, which are very, well run. In fact, the children are provided with all kinds of material comforts, at least. Does he do anything to rehabilitate children or addicts or whoever he takes in? Does he take a program within the Edhi Foundation to rehabilitate orphans? To make them,
all the children
yes,
who are in Edhi Foundation's care are not going to firstly, they're all self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Even in the areas where the handicapped children or people, or even the psychological patients, Grab, goat, etc., he has made them all work themselves. He believes in self-sufficiency, so you don't need help to wash your clothes. He washes his own. So he does himself. That's his training is based very much on what he's himself do. And trained, their main training, which is essential because it might not be a college or a university, but it is the university of life, training you for life. And in that, once you become self-sufficient and you know that you've got to do everything for yourself, nobody's going to come to help you, therefore you get interested in skills. And all the people at Edhi Foundation are prepared for something in which they're going to, specialize, whether it's country or whether it's,
some vocational.
some vocational training, and so that they go out and work themselves.
Yes. As a person, when we see him to be very content, very happy. You've spent a lot of time with him. Did you feel at any time he was despairing?
He's a dictator.
That's what we've heard.
Absolute.
Yes. But was there ever he wants to give up?
No. He's also never taken a holiday in his entire life. Not one day and not one night. If you think that you have a telephone which you insist is an emergency, this again goes back to his simplifying complicated matter. No matter how big Edhi Foundation has become, there is a telephone by his bed and it's an emergency service. So when the phone rings in the center, whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you will hear Edhi on the phone.
He answers it, yeah.
So he has kept, and he keeps saying, if you say, okay, please rest, he says, I'm an emergency service.
Yes.
So he's remained like that.
So one last question. Has being with him changed you?
I won't say considerably, I'll say quite completely. It was, firstly it was really like a university of life. I think I couldn't have gone to a better place to learn life, and the kind of personal, the proximity that I had with him and his family certainly drew me into an area which was in any case close to my heart. Anyone oppressed, anyone suffering, my heart is in any case there most of the time. So I was in the right place. How it changed me was that it did simplify my own mind and my own, idea of what I was going to do. It definitely became simplified.
Shelby, thanks for
Okay, thank you.
Can we move on to Ramon and can you stay with us? Yeah. So the other great person of Pakistan who has passed away about 13 years back was Dr. Akhtar Hamid Khan. Now he was a social scientist. He was a development person. He started off as a CSS, a civil servant, and he gave it up in order to become a locksmith, because as a civil servant he did not want to take action against his subordinates, or on the say-so of the British, with all due apologies to anyone from sitting here. So that was he could not do it. He resigned from his civil services position and he became a locksmith. And subsequently his journey took him to East Pakistan, to Kumilla, where he set up a cooperative movement there. And once East Pakistan became Bangladesh, he came to West Pakistan, which was then Pakistan, and he lived in Peshawar, and ultimately he came to Karachi, where he set up the now very flourishing, very successful Orangi pilot project. It was based in Orangi at that time in the 1980s, but it has now spread not only within Pakistan but outside Pakistan as well. And his model was that people have to be people should not rely on government. There should be a spirit of self-help. You do X amount of stuff and the government will do Y amount of stuff, and the X plus Y become the whole. So this was his philosophy, and he proved it. And his greatest achievement was he got professionals to work for the poor. So whereas professionals would normally then want to sit in their offices and be consultants, he brought them into the abadis, and the settlements, and he created a model which could be emulated by everyone, because it was based on a partnership between the people and the government. Rana has very, very ably written this book, which was turned into a graphic novel, and he is somebody that one can emulate. And like Edhi, he also lived very simply. He had 2 joras of clothes. His wife used to make him clothes. This I know because I have a personal, I knew him personally for years and years. His wife used to make him clothes from the same kapra. And he used to say, look, I wear it so well that it doesn't go, that wo kharab nahi hota hai. But actually those were clothes that his wife made, but from the same color. So, but this is a little trick his wife used to play. But he used to wash his own clothes. He would be, again, this thing that, you bring your desires to a level where it becomes so human, on a human scale, and then you are able to live so happily. It is not something which everyone can do. So, Romana, can you tell us about the journey that you took? Yes.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry, I had lost my voice completely about 3 days ago, and I'm still recovering, so you'll have to bear with me. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Oxford University Press because, doing this series of graphic books and bringing the eminent Pakistani personalities to this level that children, I was wondering actually when these young children came and sat down, because these books are meant for slightly older children. So I was just worrying that we will have to explain to these children, although one could do that, of course, who these great personalities. But OUP entrusted me with 6 of these stories, these personalities. And the first book on Dr. Akhtar Hamid Khan has come out. I want to acknowledge the presence of Amma in this room. I think I have been told that too shy to come up, but she's the one who wrote the Edhi book, and I think we at least need to applaud that effort. Dr. Hamid Khan, I first met him in 1986, and I also knew him personally. The other books that I did, whether it was Fatma Jinnah or Faiz Sahab or Zameen Niazi or Rana Liaquat Ali Khan and so on, I did not know them personally, I had not met them, but Dr. Sahab was one person I did meet a number of times, and I must tell you from just now, we have been talking about how simply he lived, and of course Abdul Sattar Edhi's life is in front of us. I remember one day, my husband, who is an architect, he's sitting here, Mukhtar, the two of us had gone to Dr. Saab's apartment to discuss something, and it was the top floor of the building. It was summer and it was quite hot. So my husband suggested to Dr. Saab that he could. He said I could suggest what you do to the roof so that it becomes cooler in the summer and you don't have to bear this heat. And the room that we were sitting in, the so-called drawing room, it was a very simple room. There was just one electric bulb, coming down from the ceiling. And Dr. Saab said something which I can never forget. He said, if you insulate yourself from within, then ये जो मौसम वो असर नहीं करते. And it does not matter whether it's hot or it's cold, the insulation is required from within. And I think that is so profound. And, he, like Akila, he lived that life that he didn't preach, but he, again, he was trying to show that you can be acknowledged, you can become known by your work, not that you set out to become known. He was just trying to help the poor, the people, not the poorest of poor, but like everyone, whoever was living in that area, he was trying to help them live a better life. And he didn't have to do what he did. I mean, he didn't want to live like that, but he chose to do that. And I think that is something, the philosophy of life, that, you sacrifice your own self, you sacrifice your own needs, and you just think about the other, and that is something that makes them great.
But just one But you know, they did not think of it as sacrifice.
No.
For them, it was
No,
a way of life.
no.
Yes. And you know, also just one little point about both Edhi Saab and Dr. Hamid Khan, they were not ascetics. They did not give up on life. They enjoyed life, but they enjoyed it on terms that were so attainable. That were attainable to everyone. I mean, I don't know about Edhi Saab, but Dr. Saab would love gossip. He would love music, and you know, I mean, I have spent hours and hours. My relationship with him began because my sister runs the Orangi Pilot Project, so he became a household figure for us. You know, he was there all the time for us.
I want to acknowledge the help that your sister, Parveen Rahman, she's an architect and she is the director of RTI Research and Training Institute set up at the OPP. And Parveen has been with the OPP right from the beginning, well, almost the beginning. You know, I talked to Parveen about his work because, you know, I wanted to get everything right. Then, you know, we are doing, although I was not illustrating the book, but I knew that the illustrator will have a problem, because if you say that there were, for example, 8 brothers and sisters, now when you are doing an illustrative work, then that is not enough. You have to know how many brothers and how many sisters, what were the ages, you know. So all these details I needed to know from somebody, a family member. And I had met Dr. Saab's daughter Aisha only once. So I said to Parveen, you know, I needed to talk to Aisha about all these kind of details, and Aisha also, you know, wrote back and helped me with that. So there were several things in all these books that you needed those details and research, and you needed to connect with the family and, you know, get all the background stuff.
Yes. Now, one thing I know about the project is that it was not something that he thought up and he said, okay, this is what I'm going to impose on the poor, that this is my solution to their problems. So, you know, so it was not top down, it was bottom up. He used to roam around in the lanes, in the gullies of Orangi for days and days and days, talking to people, talking to women, talking to men and to children, that what is it that you require the most. And you know, the general thing is that they want to talk about health and education, they want to talk about education, and they want to talk about economic programs. But the women especially in the gullies told him, look, we need these lanes to become clean first of all, because there is nothing that we can do if it is, you know, we spend so much of our money in treatment of children for common illnesses like stomach upsets because there was no sanitation. So that roaming around in the lanes got him this idea that we have to, in order to change the lives of the people living in those lanes in Orangi, we have to start with the cleaning it up. And cleaning it up meant giving it a good system of sanitation. Now, sanitation is expensive. You can't make you know, toilets, etc. on a very small budget. But then he got professionals and architects to help him, and town planners to help him create a model where those people who lived in the lanes could afford it themselves. So they made that the lane was the unit of his development policy. He fixed up the lanes, then he provided them the tools to lobby the government to make the bigger, you know, the secondary part of it. So this was it. So he learned this from the people themselves by talking to them, by living with them, by eating with them, and that is how he did not impose any solution on them. So this is something that and you must remember that he had been to MIT and Princeton. He taught there, and you know that the cooperative movement was a subject which was taught by him at MIT, and his model of Comilla was used in the curriculum to teach others what cooperative movement is. And when he started talking about school, so it has to be, you know, co-educational. He did not believe in having a school for girls and another for boys. Now these things I know because because of my personal interactions with him. So he used to believe in co-education. He used to believe that there was no difference between the two, and you know, he never articulated that he was for women's rights, but this is what he did for women in Orangi. And now you know that the literacy in Orangi, if you take just Orangi, female literacy is 90%.
And
Literacy.
also, yes, all, I mean, so many private schools there, many more than the government schools, you know. And if you go to Orangi town, you'll see that almost every home has something or the other. They're working for their income generation. There could be the Banarsi weavers, or there could be, you know, other stuff going on. And also, I mean, over the years, the Orangi pilot project program has been emulated, and in other places as well in Pakistan. So
Also,
it has become
also in India, Bangladesh,
Yes.
in Indonesia,
That's right.
you name it, you know, it's been
Yes.
emulated, and it was Dr. Saab's basic vision, which was then developed by professionals to a level where it could be then taken out of Orangi into the gullies and mahallas of all over Pakistan.
And he was awarded the Magsaysay award, which is a very coveted award from the Philippines government.
Yes.
And that was
But you
Quite
know,
a-
he used to love to gossip.
yes,
Yes, so that was one aspect of him.
yes.
And you know, he nurtured so many people. And the original people who worked with him still run OPP. Still run it, you know, 87 say. So he nurtured this leadership in them by being a model himself. You know, that he used to give them all the work. So this is, you know, he taught them these tools.
Amina would like to say something.
Yes, Amina. Yes.
Well, Aqila, I think you knew him much better. I just met him a few times, Akhtar Hamid Khan Saab. And you know, what I learned from him the first time I met him, he said, आपको पता है पेशावर कराची में ज़्यादा पठान है पेशावर से. And that was, you know, somewhere in the early 90s that he told me this. So he had a lot of, but actually just talking about these books, I'm delighted that we have published these 2 books, graphic novels, because our purpose at Oxford University Press is to create role models for our children, to make sure that they learn about our own wonderful heroes, and because I feel that is the only way that they can develop a set of values that they can admire and emulate. So I'm really grateful to Romana for having written this book, to Amna Asfar, who's also here, who's written the book on Edhi. And Romana, as you said, we have many more in the pipeline, and we want to cover heroes from all fields of life, whether it's sports or whether it's literature or journalism. We have, of course, Faiz Ahmad Faiz, and we are looking for more and more characters, and actually there's no shortage. We have so many heroes. The trouble is that they're all unsung. And that's why I'm so grateful to you, Temina, for the work that you have done on Edhi, because you have given Edhi an international profile, and I think that's what we need to do. We have to make our heroes known internationally, and I think Lorenza Raponi, who's here with us, has written a book in Italian on Edhi, which we have translated and published. And I hope that your book is translated into many languages and read, because that is our intention, to make our heroes well known globally, and also for our children to recognize them, acknowledge them.
Would you like to add something on Edhi, or in the whole process of writing your book?
I think it's important to see another aspect of Edhi. We were talking about Dr. Saab, and you know how he said that he would not contribute to any school that didn't have girls. Edhi Saab, in his own way,
Yes.
has shown the position of a woman in this country or in our religion or in the area confinements that we live in, with Bilqis, because he openly says that 90% of the success that he has achieved in creating Edhi Foundation is Bilqis.
Yes.
So a man coming from his background,
Yes.
and he was he just studied till class 4, so he didn't even complete school. So this is a man who we can say is unread,
Yes.
and he has that kind of
Yesterday he said something great about his wife.
that kind of a position of a woman in his mind, that kind of liberalism, or how progressive he is, that she works side by side with him. She doesn't, she did ask him initially when they got married if she used to wear a burqa, so she did parda when they got married, and he made her remove it. And the areas they lived in, the kind of people they moved in, and yet she was out in front
Yes.
with him. So I think that says a lot,
Of course.
again,
Yes.
about the woman's role.
Yes. Did you happen to meet Bilqis as well?
Many times I
times,
spent a lot of time with
What
her,
did he-
equally as with him.
What did she think of her husband? We know what her husband thinks.
Yeah.
He calls her next. He says he didn't need God.
Yes,
He had
that's what he
Bilqis.
said yesterday.
Yes.
So that's what he said yesterday.
He
So-
said after God
Yes, this
there
is her.
is
So,
Bilqis for him.
So what does
It's a very fascinating relationship because there's a great romance going on there.
Yes, really?
Yes. And that romance hasn't ended, hasn't lessened, hasn't even lessened. You can continuously, feel it in the room. But what she's done, which I think is remarkable, is that Edhi Saab is so completely committed to his work and to doing, unlike, Dr. Hamid, who could listen to music, Edhi Saab doesn't even watch television. So except sometimes he might watch the news.
Yes.
There's no unwinding time, and there's no time to relax, or there's no friends, and there's nothing but work. So to live with such a serious man, and a man who won't let you spend a penny, he won't even serve you, there's no question of serving you a cold drink or tea. He'll only give you water if you want it from the tap, because he thinks you should have had it at home and come to him. He's not providing it. So to live with such a man, a normal girl she was, and everybody stopped her from this marriage and she went into it. She has not taken him seriously.
Really?
He can be as serious as he likes, as angry as he likes, as rigid as he likes, as whatever he is. For her, she can joke at anything, listen, he can scream and shout, and she's still loving him and joking and saying, he's like this, let him be, let's ignore it, we'll hide and do it. So the way she coped with such a difficult man.
Yes.
This marriage is an example because it also shows us the balance, that a man and woman are equal but different.
Yes.
So it's a very supportive marriage. She supports him completely. And of course, I don't know if he supports her, but she supports him completely. And he's leading, but she's following in a very, not that she's stressed with it, she's not doing it, it's not a compulsion, it's not a pressure.
Because she wants to.
Because, as I said, that there's so much romance that, one can feel that there's real love. Both of them.
Great.
They're really in love.
Yes, great.
Yeah.
Yes.
For love.
Romana, one aspect of Dr. Saab was that he was a poet. He was a very well-established poet. Yes, fabulous. And because of one of his verses, he was charged with the worst possible crime that you can commit, and that of blasphemy.
Sher or Rahmak was that poem.
And the reason I'm saying this is because the sher that was quoted was published by in OUP. That sher Khuda.
Shireen, would you? Shireen Sayed is here, who illustrated it.
Would you remember that sher Khuda?
Yes? Yeah.
Yes.
Happened and how it had been misinterpreted.
That's right.
Do you remember the sher?
Yes, I know the share, so yes.
Yes.
No, the Urdu
The
sher.
Urdu verse, do you
The
remember
Urdu
it?
word sher as in verse.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was
As
misinterpreted. Yes.
Hazrat Ali.
Yes.
Although the poem was about a man, taking on a lion cub as a pet, and then
It
grows.
was like somebody who was the village fool, who takes on like it's like the crow trying to be a peacock, the similar parallel. And he was charged with blasphemy. And there were cases registered against him in 3 different cities. And at the same time, he was called in the 3 different cities. And this man of 75 at that time, he used to go all over making appearances. There was never any, chhoot given to him कि ठीक है आप ना appear हो. And it took a very big toll on his life. This last bit of this case that happened on him. But he bore it with great fortitude. And his work did not suffer because of it, because that is something he kept on. There was so much despair. We used to go and we used to, he never decided that he's going to leave the country. He could have. There were people in the United States who were offering him professorships. He could have easily gone away. But this was his soil, he needed to be here. And he bore it, and ultimately the cases were dropped. Ultimately, the cases were wound up with great difficulty. I think when the democratic government came into power in the 90s, that's when the cases were all dropped. But he bore it. Any day, anything could have happened to him. He used to go, and every day he would go to Orangi. At that age, to Orangi. He used to live in Gulshan-e-Iqbal, and he used to go to Orangi every single day. Come rain, come shine. And that is where he would sit every day for 4 hours and work. So, this was the greatness of the man.
And he lived on the top floor of the building he did.
Yes.
So, climbing up and, coming down.
There is a very good diary he kept when he was in MIT, which is called 20 Weeks in America. And that diary, if you read, it's been translated. In fact, I translated it into English. It is available here. If you read that, you will get to know what the man is really. His life is simple, but his thoughts are very complicated. Complicated and big. His vision was very big. And he showed through his own life and his work that it is achievable. And thanks, Romana, for writing this and the illustrations. And thank you for bringing these heroes to us. Yes. So are there any questions? Any questions? Yes. Yes.
I want to know, I know this question has been asked before, how did it affect your life? In the philosophy of your own life, I speak loudly.
Yes, I think the room is small enough for, yeah.
In your personal life, how did it change things? I know it changes thoughts, but did you put them into action? Did you, the months you spent with him in the book you wrote, the philosophy that you imbibed, in your actual day-to-day life, how did it affect you? I think this is very important when we learn from people like this. Do you just listen?
Hello.
I know that's effective, but I think we all want to know.
Well, there were
Hello.
two aspects of Edhi Saab's life and message, which I will say, that come to mind just now, right now. I mean, he affected me in many, many ways, but two that come to mind. One was that Edhi Saab made me understand the difference between need and want. I immediately began to draw a line, and it became practical. If you can understand this, I mean, there's nothing really, you recognize that you go to a shop or a grocery store, you come back with a quarter of what you would come back with if you just picked up the things you wanted to pick up. So he clarified that completely. The other thing I think I can say, because I'm a public person myself, and I learned from him, and I was in any case prone to it, but my struggle, my own personal struggle was something that required me constantly to be fighting my battle through the press. So I had to be fighting my own personal battle, which was with my book and whatever else I was doing. It was with the print media. There wasn't any electronic media at that time. He made me understand that it was unnecessary. I stopped my fight with Edhi Saab. I recognized that you can fight your battle, that it is in the doing that I got more involved, and the result began to become unimportant to me. The result had nothing to do with me. The result was not my aim, and it was not my my focus was completely drawn back to the doing. That was my job, and not the result. So he took me away from the result completely. That was practical again. It was again practical. So these were implementable and practical things that I could bring into my life. The two things.
Yes, Mukhtar.
One sees already that Dr. Hamid Khan inspired and trained so many people.
Yes.
That his methodology as a working model continues successfully. Is it likely that Edhi Saab's working model will continue after
So that's a fantastic observation, question. Very question.
Hello.
Yes.
A lot of people think that Edhi Saab's work will end with him, because there's one man, Edhi, and then you don't see what you see of Dr. Saab's. However, this is not correct. Edhi Saab has built a system that is a skeleton, a model for all third world countries to be able to emulate at very low cost and high profit. And this model, after him, is going to become much more stronger and more obvious once he's not there. Because he's there, it seems the man is so big himself that he draws the attention to the word Edhi. It's not a name, it's a word, Edhi. And on that name, because he felt that he was only responsible for his own self, he could only take money from people if he was responsible for it, and he could not take it on any other basis. He could only trust his own self. So he took it on the name Edhi. That's why it's Edhi. He's responsible for your money. He's responsible for that. So Edhi's only reason for projecting himself so strongly has been because he became credible as a person you could trust. However, the foundation is made in such a way, the board of directors, the people who he has already organized after him, which is all four governors of the four provinces, the president of the country, the chiefs of your armed forces, the head of your revenue departments, your various other important departments. That's the board of the Edhi Foundation, with members of his family who he has trained to be exactly like him. So Faisal Edhi, Kubra Edhi, Bilqis now is not well, and so we can say she put her with Edhi Saab, but the younger generation of his grandchildren, they are all part of Edhi Foundation, and they are on the board, so that to see that the financial, he's very involved in the financial side of the foundation being run correctly. So this model that he's created is hopefully going to be the right hand to your government. Be an autonomous body, not become linked with the government, but be able to serve Pakistan, to convert it into a social welfare state one day. We can't see it happening, but he has prepared it in such a way that I hope he lives long, but when it comes before you, the real Edhi Foundation is after Edhi Saab. He didn't work his entire life just to work. He worked to create something for this country and leave it. And leave it very, very sound. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, any other question? Yes.
I had a question for Tamina. You've talked about Edhi Saab not being celebrated as much as he shouldn't be. And I was just wondering, do you have any ideas on how to promote him as a larger-than-life figure for Pakistan? Do you have any ideas on how to do that in the future?
Well, firstly, the reason I say that is that Edhi Saab doesn't need the promotion, and he doesn't need to be, become a hero to anybody. As we said, he is involved with the doing and the creating and the giving. We need him, and the world needs him. Because unless we spread humanitarianism, especially today in the Muslim world, again I say Muslim and I insist on, because the problem is here. The Muslim world requires a role model so that they can have a choice to turn towards humanitarian Islam rather than militant Islam, which we today have. And for the Muslim world, it's important not just for Pakistan, for the entire Muslim world, especially for the new generation. Because if they only have one choice and they're constantly being propagated and constantly being, militant Islam, jihad, Al-Qaeda, Bin Laden, terrorism, it's a constant thing, but then there's a lot of emotion involved. So you can easily go in that direction because you're emotionally aroused. You feel that the whole world is your enemy and it's an enemy to your religion. So you become protective about it. That turning in that direction can only be changed if you have another model who becomes a hero, who looks to you, who can pull you as strongly, who becomes a household word, who is on your media, on your televisions, whose face is recognized, whose name is recognized, whose life and message is recognized, then you begin to want to be like him. So if you have that choice, Edhi gives that choice. Edhi gives that choice. We need that choice. He doesn't need that. So we need it. Now how do we do it? I think that every year his name is nominated by our government, any government, be it a military government or a democratic government, his name is nominated for the Nobel Prize. But for various reasons or whatever they are, he always says, I'll never get it. But the day he does get it, Edhi Saab will become a household name. And if he does become a household name, then our children will begin to know.
I hope this year Malala gets it though. Let's hope for that, yes. And just one little comment that, if he comes a lot on television, etc., then I think his persona will change.
No, but it's not about his persona.
He will not be Edhi anymore, no?
No, we're not talking about him coming himself. We're talking about us recognizing that face, recognizing that person and that life and that message of that person. What is this? Where is this person directing us? And his persona really doesn't matter to him if we can convert it into something that serves the larger, greater good.
Would you think it would help if we have him in the school books, like the book?
Absolutely, like this book, being in schools.
Heroes of
Absolutely, it's going to help a lot.
Yeah, these are done
Yes.
for children.
For children.
These are extremely important.
Both these books.
Yeah.
And these are available. I think schools should be
Very important.
The schools your children go to should be told to order
That's
these
right,
books.
Yes,
because
Put it in
exactly.
libraries.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Do that.
From 10 years and onwards, I mean.
I
if,
think, are we running out of time, or are we already run out of time? Have we?
We have.
Yes.
have.
So we can just have one last question and, yes.
Ramina, since you worked for the women and you yourself have struggled and are going to teach the oppressed ones to come out and speak for themselves, since you have Edhi Saab and you stayed with him, why don't you come together with Edhi Saab and support the women, the oppressed women who have and who cannot come forward and be brave, and with Edhi Saab teaching you, you can help a lot more.
Yes.
Do you think you can do it?
Well, I'll have to do that part alone because
Yes.
I must tell you, Edhi Saab is not going to remove his focus from where it is right now.
And it's needed there.
Yeah.
It's needed there. And I think it's imperative for all of us, each
Yes.
one of us, whether it's a man or a woman, to work for humanity. And we must each in our own way do it.
Yes.
In our own way, in our own
Yes.
sphere, in wherever we can. It always begins at home. Now, by home, I don't mean your house. I mean, by home, I mean everyone around you. The people who work for you, the people who are relatives of the people who work for you. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And you have to start from home. Yes,
With reference to the book
Yes.
that we're talking about,
yes,
I think this is very important because this starts to put
Yes.
knowledge into.
of course,
Yes.
of course, of course.
It's about like little things like need and want.
Exactly.
It's like learning to live with a certain level
Yes.
of balance of
Yes.
character. Zara
Yes.
से कहते हैं,
Yes.
लोगों को ज़रफ़ी-
जी जी
Best.
सो जी तो ये कि आप हम में से हर एक जो है ना, वी कैन डू इट टू विद आवर ओन चिल्ड्रन नाउ.
Exactly.
Yes.
And at the school level,
Yes.
that would give it would be very en masse.
Yes,
Very,
totally,
very important.
totally.
Extend it.
Exactly.
We need to talk to
Not your own children, but also other children, everyone around you. Okay.
education.
Yes.
If he has the time. Yes. Okay, thanks to all of you for coming, and Tahmina
Thank you,
and
thank
Romana.
you.
Fantastic
Thank you,
conversation.
Akila.
Thanks
Thank
so
you very
much.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.